Luckily, our 9 News health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli, is with us now. So the BA.2 variant now appears to be becoming the dominant variant. We've been talking about the new dominant variant through the course of 2 years now. How much should we be worrying about the stealth variant?
Today, not so much. And the reason is, even though it's more contagious, more infectious, doesn't appear to be making people sicker. Now, I think part of this is protection that we have from the vaccines,
right,
and from the January infection wave that we had.
Right.
So guys, this might change, which means we need to keep our radar up for sure.
So we've been talking about this booster that was recommended for people 65 and older. What about anybody 50 or younger? What groups do you think about this booster at this point?
So it's 60 and older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
60
is what the data from Israel came out
Yeah.
in. But the FDA has actually approved it here in the US for 50 and older people. So the question
Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, it really does become, so there's two questions here. One is 50 and older, how long does that protection last? And how many times are we going to keep boosting? But for the younger people, I do believe that there are some people under the age of 50 who might benefit from getting an additional booster. Those are those immunocompromised people. The other question to ask yourself is if you're high risk and high risk of exposure. So if you're a sick person under the age of 50 who travels a lot, for example, you may want to talk to your doctor about whether or not it makes sense for you as an individual to think about getting that additional booster.
What about the impacts of these boosters? Are they dwindling as far as their efficacy and the length that they are able to help you out?
You know, Tom, you just said that the FDA couldn't really figure out what to do next. And part of the reason is because, you know, more is not necessarily better. And we have some new data that came out yesterday in the New England Journal of Medicine that the impact of this additional booster may only last a few weeks. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because protection against infection appears to be the highest 4 weeks after you get the booster. That makes sense. But at about 8 weeks, protection against any infection appears to be the same as someone who didn't get that booster.
Well, and that's why we worry. We're talking about maybe making this into an annual shot. Now it sounds like it might be something like quarterly, if that's the kind of impact it's going to have.
Well, I don't think it should be quarterly. I think it still does protect against severe illness, and which is why at this point we really need to start refining, you know, boosters for people who are the highest risk, and those are elderly people, are immunocompromised, chronic illness, not for everybody, because it's only those highest risk people that are getting the most bang for their bucks. You don't want to be giving it to the entire population.
And to be fair, people are going to get, so they're already weary. I don't know that they're going to keep track if they have to go quite a bit. But how about the idea of mixing and matching? Because that is another thing, because for many people that went to get their booster, it was like, no, we only have this. So it was, okay, give me what you got, you know? Can you do that?
Yes, in fact, 2 very robust studies that have come out. One saying that it boosts your T cells and your number of antibodies. The second saying it actually helps you to mix and match to get different types of antibodies. So Moderna seems to create the kind of antibodies that live in our nose and our mouth. They're called mucosal antibodies, or IgA. And Pfizer seems to create the type of antibodies that live inside our lymph nodes and our terminal centers around our body. They're called IgG. So if I've gotten Moderna, when I'm ready for the booster, I may reach for Pfizer.
It's definitely something you'd be well advised to talk to your doctor about if you have questions.
Sure.
It sounds like you know everyone's different and everyone's in a different place now.
Yes.
From unvaccinated all the way through fully boosted or having had you know, COVID at some point. It's definitely worth a chat with your doctor to make sure you're heading in the right direction and making good decisions and staying safe.
Yeah, not just your vaccination status, where you live, what your exposure risk is, and what your underlying medical problems are. Complex decisions.
Yeah. It's like what we're doing. Like where you at in your life, you know?
So that's
it's
tough,
like
because when you say, hey, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I know.
Rarely do I know what I'm doing.
Deep thoughts, Tom, deep thoughts.
That's why I call my doctor. Call my doctor and say, what am I doing?
I know. Well, Dr. Kohli seems to have a real straight path, and we're kind of, we're wanderers.
Well, it's good to see you. Thanks
Thank
for coming
you.
in, Dr. Payal Kohli.